Welcome back. Now the news in details. Israel's parliament has passed the first reading of a controversial bill that would introduce a death penalty for individuals convicted of terrorism-related offenses. The measure, championed by far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, was approved by a vote of 39 to 16 and now heads to committee for further debate. If enacted, the law would apply to those who kill Israelis out of nationalistic or racist motives, with critics warning it could disproportionately target Palestinians. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who previously opposed the bill, citing risk to Israeli hostages, has now backed the legislation amid mounting political pressure. The move comes during a fragile truce with Hamas, intensifying concerns about its impact on regional tensions. Human rights groups and opposition lawmakers have condemned the bill, calling it discriminatory and a threat to judicial fairness. The proposal must pass 2 more readings before becoming law. Meanwhile, the United States Senate has passed a critical spending bill to end the longest government shutdown in American history, which lasted a record 41 days. In a 60-40 vote, nearly all Republicans and 8 Democrats backed the measure, which restores funding for federal agencies through January 30, 2026. The shutdown had paralyzed key services, halted food benefits for millions, and left hundreds of thousands of federal workers unpaid. The bill now heads to the House of Representatives, where it is expected to pass following the Veterans Day recess. While the deal temporarily resolves the funding crisis, it leaves unresolved debate over health subsidies affecting 24 million Americans. President Donald Trump is expected to sign the bill once it clears the House, marking a major step towards restoring normalcy after weeks of political gridlock. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has proposed a bold new plan to distribute a $2,000 tariff dividend to most Americans, excluding high-income earners, framing the initiative as a patriotic payout from the trillions in tariff revenue his administration claims to have collected. Trump described Americans as shareholders in the nation's trade profits. The announcement, made via Truth Social, comes as part of his push to highlight record investment in U.S. manufacturing and efforts to reduce the national debt. However, economic experts are skeptical about the feasibility of the plan. Analysts warn that the current tariffs revenue may not be sufficient to fund such widespread payments, and legal hurdles could complicate implementation. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent acknowledged the idea's appeal, but noted that the dividend could take various forms, including tax savings rather than direct checks. The proposal has sparked fresh debate over the long-term impact of Trump's tariff policies on American households. In another development, in a surprising moment during a Fox News interview, President Donald Trump took aim at France, declaring, and I quote, "We've had a lot of problems with the French." And the comment came as host Laura Ingraham discussed Chinese student espionage in U.S. universities, prompting Trump to interject, questioning whether the French were any better. His remarks have stirred diplomatic chatter, especially given his historically tense but theatrical relationship with French President Emmanuel Macron. Trump's swipe adds another layer to the complex U.S.-France dynamic, marked by past trade disputes and personal friction between the two leaders. While Macron has previously reached out directly to Trump to smooth tensions, this latest jab suggests lingering skepticism. The timing and tone of Trump's comments could reignite debate over transatlantic cooperation and trust heading into a critical geopolitical season. In the meantime, Russia's Federal Security Service, FSB, says it has thwarted a dramatic plot allegedly orchestrated by Ukrainian and British intelligence to hijack a MiG-31 fighter jet armed with a Kinzhal hypersonic missile. According to state media reports, the plan involved offering Russian pilots $3 million and Western citizenships to defect with the aircraft. which has to be flown towards a NATO base in Romania for a staged provocation. The FSB claims the operation was designed to trigger a false flag attack and escalate tensions between Russia and NATO. Moscow asserts that the plot was directed by Ukraine's military intelligence with support from British operatives. While Western officials have yet to respond publicly, the allegations come amid heightened geopolitical friction and ongoing conflict in Ukraine. The incident, if verified, could mark a dangerous new chapter in covert warfare tactics. In a dramatic geopolitical turn, Syria has officially joined the US-led coalition against the Islamic State, ISIL, marking a new chapter in regional counterterrorism efforts. The announcement followed a landmark meeting between Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara and US President Donald Trump at the White House, the first visit by a Syrian head of state since 1946. Syrian Information Minister Hamza al-Mustafa confirmed the signing of a political cooperation agreement, emphasizing Syria's commitment to combating terrorism and promoting regional stability. While the agreement currently excludes military components, it signals a major policy reversal for both nations, especially after the recent lifting of UN sanctions on Syria. President al-Shara's rise to power after ousting Bashar al-Assad and his delisting from global terror watch list have paved the way for his alliance. Analysts say the move could reshape dynamics in the Middle East as Syria transitions from pariah to a partner in the global fight against extremism. Polls have opened across Iraq for the country's sixth parliamentary election since the 2003 US-led invasion, but voter enthusiasm remains strikingly low despite relative stability in recent years. Many Iraqis say they've lost faith in the electoral process, viewing it as a tool for entrenched elites and foreign powers rather than a path to meaningful reform. Nearly 21 million citizens are eligible to vote, with over 7,750 candidates vying for 329 seats. Yet, turnout is expected to be modest. Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani is seeking a second term, campaigning on promises to balance Iraq's ties with both the US and Iran. However, a growing young electorate sees the vote as a mechanism for dividing oil wealth rather than addressing pressing issues like unemployment and corruption. With regional powers closely watching the outcome, the election could shape Iraq's future, but many voters remain unconvinced that change is truly on the ballot. You're still watching The World in 30 Minutes, live on Politics and Business Television. Still to come, Modi alleged conspiracy after a deadly Delhi blast, anti-terror law invoked. Stay with us. Welcome back. A powerful car explosion near the historic Red Fort in New Delhi has left at least 13 people dead and over 20 injured, sending shockwave through India's capital. The blast, which occurred Monday evening, is being investigated under India's stringent anti-terror laws. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, speaking from Bhutan, condemned the attack and described it as a conspiracy, vowing that those responsible would be brought to justice. Authorities say the explosion originated from a Hyundai 20 vehicle stopped at a traffic signal, with forensic teams now combing the scene for clues. This marks the most significant security breach in Delhi since 2011, raising concerns about urban safety and intelligence lapses. Home Minister Amit Shah confirmed the invocation of anti-terror legislation, signaling a nationwide crackdown on potential threats. Well, a devastating suicide bombing outside the district court complex in Islamabad has claimed the lives of at least 12 people and injured over 30 others. The explosion, which targeted a police vehicle near the entrance of the judicial building, sent shockwaves through the capital, marking one of the deadliest attacks in recent years. Eyewitnesses described scenes of chaos and destruction, with bodies strewn across the blast site and emergency responders racing to contain the aftermath. In a swift and controversial response, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif accused neighboring India of orchestrating the attack, calling it a conspiracy and linking it to the other recent violence in the region. The government also pointed at the Afghan Taliban, alleging they acted as proxies for New Delhi. While no group has claimed responsibility, the accusations have escalated diplomatic tensions, drawing sharp reactions from regional observers and raising fears of further instability. In another development, a humanitarian tragedy has unfolded in Southeast Asia as a boat carrying Rohingya refugees fleeing Myanmar capsized near the Thailand-Malaysia maritime border. At least 21 bodies have been recovered, 12 in Malaysian waters and 9 in Thailand, while dozens remain missing. The vessel, which departed from Myanmar's Rakhine state, was reportedly carrying around 70 people when it sank near Koh Tarutau Island, just north of Malaysia's Langkawi Island. Rescue operations are ongoing, with Malaysian and Thai authorities scouring nearly 170 square nautical miles in rough seas. So far, 13 survivors have been pulled from the water, many without life jackets, raising fears that a death toll could rise. The UNHCR and IOM have expressed deep concern over the loss of life and commended local efforts to save those still unaccounted for. And back to Africa, Tanzanian authorities have released 4 senior opposition leaders from the Chadema party following their arrest during violent protests that erupted after last month's disputed general elections. The protests, which swept cities like Arusha and Namanga, were triggered by allegations of vote rigging and the exclusion of key opposition candidates. Rights groups claim over 1,000 people were killed by security forces, marking one of the country's worst political crises in decades. Despite the releases, prominent opposition figure Tundu Lissu remains in custody, and hundreds of others face serious charges, including treason. President Samia Suluhu Hassan, who secured a landslide victory with nearly 98% of the vote, has faced mounting criticism over her administration's handling of dissent. The international community continues to monitor the situation closely, urging dialogue and accountability to restore democratic norms. A growing sense of panic grips Mali as the Al-Qaeda-affiliated group Jamaat Nasrul al-Islam wal-Muslimin (JNIM) intensify its siege on the capital Bamako. The armed group has effectively sealed off major highways, cutting off fuel supplies from neighboring countries and triggering economic paralysis. Residents are facing long lines at petrol stations, soaring prices and dwindling resources, with analysts warning that the crisis is pushing the city to a breaking point. Security experts say JNIM's campaign is designed to pressure Mali's military government into negotiations, something it has long resisted. The group, responsible for over 60% of violent incidents in the Sahel since 2017, has expanded its territorial control and launched coordinated attacks on infrastructure and foreign assets. As fear spreads across the population, calls for international intervention are growing louder, with concerns mounting over Mali's stability and broader threats to West Africa. That wraps up the program, but before we go, the headlines again. Israel moves closer to death penalty for terrorism in landmark Knesset vote. Russia claims foiling of Ukrainian British plot to hijack hypersonic jet. A tragedy at sea, 21 Rohingya refugees dead after boat sinks near Malaysia-Thailand border. Tanzania releases opposition leaders amid fallout from deadly election protests. For more updates and in-depth analysis, follow Politics and Business TV.English on YouTube and Facebook. Connect with us on Instagram at PMBTV_English and TikTok at PMBTV_E Asia Thailand border. Tanzania released